Tighten your lines as we get ready to sail the seven seas on the Political Pirate Podcast. Join Captain Ted Yoho and the salty dog John Martin as they search far and wide for the greatest treasure of all, the truth. From local Florida news to nationwide stories and the globe beyond, we've got it all mapped out. Now here's your hosts, the salty dog John Martin and Captain Ted Yoho.
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the 3 Ps, the Political Pirate Podcast, with yours truly here, the old salty dog, John Martin, and of course, the captain of our pirate ship, as always, Mr. Ted Yoho. Good morning, Ted. How are you?
I'm doing great, John. How are you doing today on this Friday show?
Absolutely. Well, you know, this is the day before the big day.
The day before the one.
First of all, let me wish everybody just an absolutely wonderful 4th of July. You know, we had the U.S. Is still winning in the World Cup. They defeated.
Are we still winning?
Yeah, they defeated, I think it was Bosnia last night. And now they're in elimination mode. So this is the first time they've gotten this far since 2002, I think. And they play Belgium Monday night or Monday, July 6th. I don't know about the time. But it is just amazing. I'm not a big soccer fan, but I'm a huge fan of what's happening with FIFA in the United States of America right now. It is amazing.
No, it really is. And I think it's a good thing, you know, to have competition. And you see so many people playing this sport now, and kids and all that. All of our kids played that. And it's going to give the NFL a rival. And I think that's a good thing, too, because I think it'll make the NFL a better sport. You know, they've gotten so political here lately that I think it'll help them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the reasons why I think soccer is catching on so much with the youth, and people may take this the wrong way if they're big soccer fans. I don't mean it in disrespect to the actual athletes that are playing at this high level. They're amazing, no doubt about it.
They sure are.
But it is one of the few sports where a very young, literally almost a toddler, can have some level of success. You know, about any toddler a 2-year-old can kick a ball, you know, and so have some level of success that is hard to capture in any other sport, really.
No, it is. And, you know, I think the important thing there, too, is just have kids involved in sports. And like you said, it's one that anybody can play. You can run and kick a ball. And I couldn't have done that because I couldn't run very fast. I was like a 3-legged turtle or a 1-legged duck, as fast as I could.
Well, I've always been more of the turtle than the hare, that's for sure, myself.
But we're consistent, man.
Yeah, I get you on that. Well, America's turning 250, Ted. 250, man.
Got my patriotic shirt on.
Well, I got kind of, in a way, my own checkered flag here because we're winning, so to speak. But it is just amazing. I mean, think about it, Ted. You and I have been blessed not only to be in America, but we celebrated the bicentennial. Now we got 250. I doubt that either one of us, outside of modern miracles of medicine, make it to the tricentennial. And hopefully we have one. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit. But this is all about the Declaration of Independence, and there was a kind of a challenge put out there for people to read the Declaration of Independence on July 4th. So we're not going to do that today. I probably will try to do it out on the boat this weekend when I'm out there. But I thought we'd break down a little bit the Declaration of Independence and hit some ideas and thoughts that applied then, and in some ways still apply, maybe even as much as ever right now.
You think?
Yeah,
it's amazing.
So let's get into this a bit, Ted. So the first opening thing about it is the unanimous declaration of the 13 states of America. The word unanimous really stood out to me because there's very little in our country that seems to be unanimous right now. But here you had 13 colonies, which were very different. Very, very different types of colonies, but they all agreed that there was enough grievance that they need to declare the Declaration of Independence, and they knew what they were getting into. The average American might not have at that time, but these guys knew that this meant their life, liberty, and property by declaring this.
They sure did. And I know you've got that quote by Ben Franklin. And I think it's a very important quote. Um, Unlike some of our modern day politicians, like AOC said, this war, the Revolutionary War, is fought against the billionaires. Just, oh my goodness.
Yeah, well, I'll go ahead and say the quote now, and we can say it again later. You never can hear it enough. Benjamin Franklin famously said, and by the way, he was ancient at that time by those standards. He
He
was
sure
almost
was.
in his late 70s, which was basically about 30 years past the average life expectancy at that time. And he was just the more I've learned about Benjamin Franklin, the more impressed I am. He was an amazing guy. They all were, but he was definitely up there. But he said that basically, and I'm paraphrasing, he said we better hang together or we'll surely hang separately after signing that.
That just shows you what they were laying on the line. I mean, they were laying their life on the line for this country, to break away from England and be a country of self rule. And I think that gets lost. I mean, are people willing today to put their life on the line to protect this nation? And you look around and some of these protests that are going on, nah, they're not willing to do that. And I know you got that one coming up for that senator running for state senator in California, running for Pelosi's seat. Is he willing to put his line his life on the line for that seat for this country? And look at the people that are protesting against them. I don't think they're willing to do it. They're willing to tear this country down, though.
Yeah, and it's also interesting about the idea of the billionaires and trillionaires and all of that kind of stuff. And I'm not trying to necessarily say that the current slate of billionaires, I'm not knocking them up or down either way, compared to the people that signed this document, the founding fathers. But really and truly, if you think about it, Ted, they were the millionaires. There weren't really millionaires, but you know what I'm saying. They were of that back then, and they put it all on the line, not for themselves, because their lives were good. Their lives were, people forget that. Their lives were relatively pretty good. They were at the upper echelon, so they had freedoms that other people didn't have because of their status, but they were willing to sacrifice for the average everyday American. And I think people lose sight of that.
They really do. Again, they knew what was at risk here, and it was either stay under authoritarian rule under the King George of England, or it was time to fight for liberty and freedom. Had they not done that, we would not be here today. And it incenses me to think that these people out there, the liberal progressives, the Bernie Sanders, AOC, and then this new wave of communists are bringing in, want to tear that system down. And
Absolutely.
I don't. You got to wonder, have they read the Declaration of Independence and Constitution, and did they hold those truths to be self-evident? I don't think they have.
Yeah, well, I'd hate to think what they might do with it, because the one lady that just won will probably be the next representative in New York literally said she wiped her private parts to a certain extent with the American flag because she didn't have a napkin. So I don't even want to
you talk
think
about desecration of the flag.
Absolutely. But this opening statement here in the Declaration says, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator, Ted, with certain unalienable rights, that among them these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I think the two big words in there are the phrases endowed by their creator and inalienable rights. People don't understand what that means. That means
Unalienable
God.
rights, right?
That means God. And all these people were Christian at the time. Now, I'm not trying to judge whether they were personally, spiritually, but they were Christians. We were founded as a Christian nation. It's just a fact. I'm not necessarily saying one thing or another. It's just a fact. We were. And our rights, and this is probably the most important thing in there, Ted, that our rights don't come from government. They didn't come from King George. They don't come from Ben Franklin. They don't come from Donald Trump. They come from God, and they cannot be taken away by man. That is critical.
Do you think we should send that to Senator Kane, Tim Kaine from Virginia, that was the governor. That was a vice presidential pick of Hillary Clinton, who says that I'm incensed to think that your rights come from a creator. Your rights come from government. And he's the guy that's in running our government. They just don't get the very basics, or they deny it, and they don't want to go there to try to preserve what this country is founded on. They want to reimagine America, and it's just not going to work. So we are going to come to we're already here at a clash and a separation of beliefs and ideologies, and their side is just anti-American. And I know you've got those polls coming up, and I think we'll talk more about that then.
Yeah, and when you mentioned Kane, you got to remember the guy's not only all the things you said, but his background, and he represents the state of Virginia.
Yeah,
that, for
really.
God's sakes, is literally the cradle of our nation when you think about it.
Yeah, I think we've had 4 or 5 presidents that have come from that state. And he was a missionary too, so he's got to have some training in theology. I think he was a theological student at one point, and he did missionary work over in Africa, I think it was. So, it pains me people like that get so warped, and I can only believe it on the way he was raised or the education he got, the liberal schools he went to.
And in case you're just tuning in, ladies and gentlemen, what we're doing is we're kind of dissecting in certain parts of the Declaration of Independence, not every aspect of it. But this next part, Ted, says to secure these rights, these inalienable rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed.
Of the governed.
Not the government, the governed, which is the
and
people.
That is we the people. We the people give our consent for government to govern, and it is up to us to hold government accountable, and we do that in the elections. And I'm telling you, people, with the elections that are going on, and the rapid increase in, I can't call them socialists, they're communist candidates getting elected. This is a rapid change. And so are we going to consent to be governed by people that are communists, socialist at best? But we know once they achieve socialism, communism happens. So it's time to wake up, and that's what we're here for.
Yeah, and this next part really that I highlighted here essentially is why they did what they did. And it says that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it. So that's where they were. And I think you can, and I hate to say this because I'm not calling for a civil war or any kind of Declaration of Independence. That price has been paid. But in many ways, we're at the precipice of that same feeling now. At least I sense we are.
We really are, with the chasm we have in our country in political ideology, John. We are there, and it's the right of the people. But more importantly, it's the responsibility of the people to alter or to abolish it. And I don't want to abolish the government. I want to abolish the threat against it with the liberal, social, communist ideology that can no longer be described or denied. And I know we're going to talk more about that. And I think this is a wake up call, because what you have the Democratic Party fighting against itself between the liberal progressives that have switched to the social communist party, and they're winning on that side. And so the old guard, when your dad was there, he was a blue dog Democrat. Those are the ones that were the moderate, and they could negotiate between the Republicans. But this group now, the blue dog Democrats have been run out. Then you had the liberal progressives, and they're being run out because you see who's coming in now. And we're going to talk about the one that won in Colorado later. So,
well, you mentioned my dad, and I can tell you that basically he was a JFK Democrat. That ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. That used to be the cornerstone of the Democrats I grew up with, but
Can you?
that seems to be
It,
gone totally now.
Oh, it really is. And that was such a great line. I remember that so well. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what can you do for your country? That was an ideology or a feeling of serving the country. He brought in the Peace Corps, and it was it still is a good program if it's not inundated with all the liberal progressive things and the wokeism. Um, but that was a good program, and I think we've talked about. I know we have talked about this. John Kennedy couldn't get elected in that part. He'd get elected in the Republican Party.
Yeah, and we're gonna just so our producer, we're gonna keep going on. We might go a little long on this segment because I don't really want to break it up, but we will take a commercial break when the time is right. But then after that, after those opening statements I just made, the rest of the declaration is basically a list of grievances telling you why, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a whole long list of them. I'm just going to highlight a few of them because I think they're important today as well. They say that talking about the King of England, has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance. So, in other
Mm-hmm.
words, what they're saying is that the government, in this case, the Crown of England, is not allowing the 13 colonies, they didn't call them states back then, to govern themselves according to their needs. And so he was denying their appointed elected officials, that type of thing, from representing the actual people and the needs of those colonies. So it's kind of a states' rights. And also, I think, Ted, it kind of explains why we need things like the Electoral College, why they put that in there later on, with the founding of the government. Because if you have this big bloated federal, in our case, government or monarchy, they tend to obliterate the rights of the people closest to their local government. I think that's what they're getting at here.
No, I think it is. And you talk about a bloated government. I'm going through some of my old notes. I'm writing a book, and when I came in, I mean, the debt was under $18 trillion, and here we are. It's $20 trillion more than $20 trillion more, because we had a bloated government, and that's what the King of England, they wanted to feed their machine in England by the colonies because they were so productive, and yeah, so he didn't want to pass laws that would favor the colonies. He wanted to keep them subjugated.
Well, this next part, actually, in my view, addresses exactly the problem you're talking about. It
Hmm.
says when I say he, I'm talking about the King of England, has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither, which means out there like a swarms of
Hither.
officers to harass our people and to eat out our substance. To me, that sounds like an ever expanding government. That's what it sounds like to me.
No, it is so true. You look at the IRS. I can't tell you how many people I had the IRS just badger them, getting their house repossessed because there was an impasse. Um, we had farmers when I was practicing that the Department of Labor under Obama had weaponized that and was going after them. I told the story of one of the guys who was a farm manager for crops and blueberries, and the Department of Labor came and they fined him and says, they came on like a Monday or Tuesday, says, you've violated these things. These are the list of grievances, and you owe $14,000, and you have to appear in Atlanta on Monday. And if not, you forgo that and you'll be arrested. So he calls me. And by the time we were done, I was on the phone with about 14 different attorneys at the same time at the Department of Labor. And I said, this is coercion. You're forcing this guy to say he's guilty. And if not, he's going to have to pay $14,000. But then you say, well, if you pay it today, we'll drop it to $7,000 or $8,000. And I said, this is just corruption. It's like the mafia. And that was going on, and that's what was happening that you just referred to. That was going on in the colonies then that they got mad about, and it's going on now. And if you get the Democrats back in there, the socialists, we know what's coming. It'll be worse than this, and they'll go after your guns and arms, and you will not be able to fight back.
Yeah, and this next part here, I think people take for granted, but we shouldn't. And that is says he, talking about the king again, has affected to render the military independent of and superior to civil power. The founders of this nation realized, and it became crystal clear, especially during the Revolutionary War, that civilian control over the military is paramount to our what we have in our country.
Yeah, it really is. So you can't have a ruler ruling over that. I mean, it is. We're in uncharted waters since the Revolutionary War here. But instead of pushing back against a king of England or a king of this country, we're pushing against that rapid change that they want to take us to. And I look back of Obama. I read some notes from when I first got into Congress, and it was about Obama, the fundamental transformation of America, because that was the way he was going and leading this nation. And we're at that point where we're all pushing back and say enough's enough, and we're going to celebrate the 4th of July. You remember last year we were talking about the 4th of July, and you had a clip of a bunch of people just damning this country, damning anybody that goes out and plays or does fireworks to celebrate this country. And that was the hatred. And I know you've got that chart coming up that pretty much exemplifies that.
Yeah, well, you know that they haven't been talking about it much, but these hardcore leftist liberals have got to be pissed about the World Cup because everybody's coming over here and going, "God bless America." And I love what one Englishman said on a thing I saw. He said, "If you want to hate America, listen to the news. If you want to love it, come visit it." That's what he said. And man,
that is you can't. I mean that was very well said.
but it goes on here in this grievance. It says he has combined with others to subject us to jurisdictions foreign to our Constitution and acknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to the acts of pretended legislation. That kind of sounds like the New World Order and the UN to me now, to put it in perspective, that we're given sovereign power over to foreign bodies. And we've done a lot of that prior to Trump being in office.
I can't tell you how true that is and how dangerous we are on that. The one world order, the World Economic Forum, that is their whole goal, and they haven't gone away. Jamie Dimon, if you remember, the CEO of Chase Manhattan or one of the big banks, Bank of America, I can't remember which one. He said you'll either go woke or you'll go broke. So he was all in that camp, and then when Trump got in and moved the other way, he denounced that. But the ideology has not gone away, John. It is there, and when the Democrats get back in power or the communists get in power, it'll go that way. And if they get it in mass, America will be over, and we won't have the choices and freedoms we have right now. And they're just waiting in the wings for the Trump era to get out. They're just being very patient.
Well, Ted, I wish, and you're absolutely right what you said, but I wish it were just the Democrats because then you'd have a clear solution. But it's not, because remember, the first time I remember hearing a president say the words New World Order was actually Bush Sr.,
Yep, I remember
Republican who was a lifelong Republican, served in the CIA. I mean, George Bush Sr., people forget how entrenched he was, CIA director, all that. I mean, he knew where the bodies were buried and everything else. And he uttered the phrase New World
I remember
Order,
that.
to my knowledge. So I wish it were just the Democrats. That would be a very clear-cut problem. May not be able to solve it, but you'd know what to do. It's entrenched in our government. People tend to forget that. It's entrenched in it. And Donald Trump's going to come and go no matter love him, hate him, whatever. And that entrenchment, that big, deep bureaucracy, the fourth estate, fifth estate, or whatever it's become, is still going to be here.
Really is. I remember H.W. Bush saying that, and I thought it was pretty neat because that was during the Star Trek and the ones that came after that. When he says we're at the dawn of a new era, the one world government, and so I'm thinking of the Federation. and I'm like, wow, this is going to be pretty cool. But then as I got educated and saw what was going on, it is turning that sovereignty over to a world body. And you know how close we were to doing that under Biden. He wanted to turn our healthcare decisions over to the World Health Organization. That's really controlled by China for the most part. We put in the most money in it, but China controls the policy in it because they're smart about that. And so Biden was going to allow the World Health Organization to determine if a pandemic happened or any medical crisis that whatever the World Health Organization said, it was going to subjugate us to doing that. This is what that side is willing to do, is turn that over. We need to say a sovereign nation. And I think you're going to see more people wanting us to be more, more just focused on America. I know Trump talks about make America great again. And some people will take this as being isolationist, but I think it's time for us to take care of our own house instead of trying to fit into the one world order, because it's not going to be good for anybody.
Well,
Keep
think
in
about
mind
it.
what Klaus Schwab said. By 2030, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. That's what that's what the people getting elected, that lady in New York and all over, you shouldn't own property.
Well, you got I don't know if they call it vice mayor or deputy mayor of Paris just this week came out and said, because they're having heat wave stuff in Europe right now. Of course, we're having it here. Blame the heat wave they're having in Paris on Americans having air conditioners. Okay. So that's how serious they are about this. They literally want us to shut off our air conditioners so somehow they get cooler in Paris. I mean, this new world order, one world government, is more insidious than people think.
Well, yeah, and it's not going away. Again, Trump has put a pause on this. I've said this over and over again, and you have too. This is just a pause. They're not going away. And that is why people have to get educated about really what's going on in not just our country, but it's going on in the world. They'll come back with the green climate and all this stuff and windmills and electric cars. And, we have to make a decision. Are we going to be self-determining, self-ruling? And I really appreciate you bringing this up and doing this on the eve of July, the 4th of July. One of the neat things about Congress during this time of year, we would read the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution in total, and we would take turns up there on the House floor. And it was really a kind of a neat thing to see that happen. So
Yeah,
it's good that you're doing this right now.
Well, this next couple of parts I know really hit home to you, Ted, where it says for cutting off, talking about one of their grievances, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world. So from the very beginning of our nation, we were free traders. And I know that there's debate about the tariffs and all of that kind of stuff, but at our heart of hearts, we have to get back to that free and fair trade. I don't disagree. And then before you comment on it, it says also for imposing taxes on us without our consent, which is the Tea Party, the founding of the original Tea Party, Boston Tea Party. But it sounds like a combination that we need to get back to free trade, and taxes on us without our consent is really what the socialists, quote, communists are talking about. Tax the rich, everybody. So to me, it's still happening, Ted.
It'll happen. History repeats itself, John. I mean, it's interesting that there was a Boston Tea Party over the overreach of the King George and the new taxes they would just put on the population. But it's happening again. Obamacare is just a tax on the wealthy, on the people that can afford it, to pay for people that aren't. And we're getting to that same point that led to the Revolutionary War by the grievances. We could list these same grievances, and the list just goes on, and history repeats itself. And that's why I want to stress again: we are but a pause in our history with Donald Trump. There, like him or hate him, it is a pause from the fundamental transformation of America. And all you have to do is look around from the last 10, 16 years ago to see what was going on then and see what's going on now. that's the transformation that we're living through.
And this next part, you talk about a pause, and I agree with 100%. That to me, this next part literally is addressing the Biden presidency that we just came out of. It says, he at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny. That sounds like an open border policy to me, and the people that are running for all these, and we're going to talk more in detail about it after we take a break here in a few minutes. But they're talking about, the lady that just won out in Colorado, and we'll get to her specifically in a minute, but she literally said that we should let everybody who is in the country right now become automatic citizens right now. Not to mention what the Supreme Court just did, but this open borders basic. And I read something that really was interesting about going back to the World Cup. It said the World Cup has proved that we have no issue with foreigners visiting our nation, coming here for various reasons, but we are opposed to invaders. And I think that is a very strong, true statement.
Well, it really is. And, I don't think anybody has a problem with people visiting. And our leaders of the past, a few of them were very smart and they understood this. You can't just have open borders and allow people coming in here speaking different languages and different religions and codes or different laws that they want to abide by, because you ruin a nation. This goes back to the Bible, the city of Babel. Everybody speaking a different language and it fell. And it again, history repeats itself, and we have to go back to who we are as Americans, and people have to learn why America was formed, who we are as a nation, who we are as Americans, and understand we're not perfect. We're a work in progress, but we can get better instead of erasing that and go to a system that we know doesn't work.
Absolutely. Another part right here, we're about finished with this segment of the show, but it said, because the colonists appealed directly to the British people as well, not just the king. But this is very interesting what they said. They too, talking about appealing to the subjects in England, said they too have been deaf to the voice of justice. They said we must announce our separation and hold them as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, peace in friends. In peace, friends. So enemy, if you're opposed to us, you're enemies in war. But if you're with us and want to trade with us, and the people coming over for the World Cup, we're peace and friends. So yeah. I think that's very important.
I think that's real good, because you know where you stand, and when you start attacking our system from the outside, that's one thing. But when it's happening on the inside, that's when you start to get the separation, and you're on the verge of a civil war. And we're right at that. I mean, it's the closest I've ever seen. I lived, and you and I both lived through the civil rights era and the Vietnam era and all the strife in this country and the anti-establishment and the drug culture. Those are turbulent times, but it was nowhere near what we are in, and we see it getting more and more radical.
Yeah. Well, we talked about it kind of at the top, and I want to bring it back up again. Ben Franklin said again after they signed, he said, we must indeed all hang together, or most assuredly we shall all hang separately, which brings me to the last part of the Declaration. It says we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. They knew what they were getting into, and they were willing to lay it all on the line, their families, their legacy, everything, to be free. And for
they really did. And their sacred honor, that to them was above everything else. I mean, they honored their reputation. And so that was the biggest thing they risked. You know how many of the founding fathers wound up, they were wealthy people, a lot of them, that signed the Declaration of Independence. But by the end of the Revolutionary War, most of them were either broke, they were in debtor's prison, or they had been killed. So they lost everything. They laid everything on the line for this country, and for people like AOC said, Well, we fought the war against the billionaires in the Revolutionary War. I mean, just clueless people. You know what's interesting, John, and this is an aside, quick one, is, and this will fit into your next segment about the polling. The Democrats' message is so bad that, I mean, they hate this country. But AOC came out last week or this week saying we've got to say how much we love America. We love America for this and this and this. Tom Suozzi out of Jersey, I think it is, he wrote an article, I think it's in the Wall Street Journal, praising how the Democrats love America. You know, there's this perception Democrats don't love America. We love America. So this is all political for the next election to try to get more people in there because they are so anti-America that they finally woke up and say, we've got to change this message. We need to do it quick. I'll guarantee you they don't believe it, because if they get the power, they'll go back to the way they were.
Well, we're going to take a quick commercial break, but before we do, I want to mention call Freddie. Make that call. Look at the little symbol you'll see from time to time on your screen. Call Freddie. Become a part of this movement to help us educate, motivate, and activate people. Break, Ted.
All righty. Yep. Call Freddie. Freddie does a great job. Freddie Wiebe. He helps so many other organizations out, and he will treat you right. And we want to thank Archer Automotive and Transmission Repair. We want you to go to Archer Automotive and Transmission Repair. They're open Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Call them for an appointment, 352-495-2485. Tell them you heard about them through the Political Pirate Podcast, and we'll see you after break.
Hi there, this is Coach Steve Spurrier, and I want to let you know that by popular demand, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill's delicious brunch is now served in a premium buffet. You have spoken, we have listened, and we're now serving Gainesville's only elevated buffet, complete with an omelet station, ginger sage chicken sausage, shredded short rib, plus you can enjoy bottomless mimosas and Bloody Marys. So join us every Saturday and Sunday from 11 to 3 for the best brunch in town.
The 3 Ps, the Political Pirate Podcast, with yours truly here, the old salty dog, John Martin, and the captain of our pirate ship, none other than Mr. Ted Yoho. Well, Ted, we were talking in the first part of the show about the July 4th, the Declaration of Independence. You know, we celebrated the bicentennial. You and I were blessed to be around there. We're now blessed to, if we wake up tomorrow morning, of course, we're blessed to see the 250th anniversary. My question, and it's a serious question, because we won't be here to see it, but will there be a tricentennial? Because I don't think that's guaranteed at this moment.
I don't either. You know, I got to show you this just because it is the 4th of July. Can you see that?
Absolutely.
We're going to hang those out. And again, John, that really is what we're here for, is to educate people on that. You know, what kind of country do you want to leave your kids? What kind of opportunity do you want to leave your kids? And then, you know, your grandkids and future generations. I got to go back to that book, The Miracle of Freedom, the 7 tipping points that saved the world. What we live today, there's only 4.5% of the people that have ever lived in the liberties and freedoms we have. And a lot of that is because of what America did and our founders did back in the 1700s. And if we lose that, the game's over, folks, on liberty and freedom. I mean, that's not hyperbole. That is fact. And 80% of the people that live in what we experience every day, we're alive today. So it is very short-lived in the history of the world.
Well, you know, a famous Russian said a few years back that they didn't have to fire a shot, basically, to take us, that we would literally sell the hangman's rope to hang ourselves with. I'm paraphrasing a bit, but he said that. But the DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America, are proving, if they keep going, they're proving what that premier of Russia that said, because that's what's happening now. We talked about New York last week, but this past week, Tuesday, there was a big upset in Colorado. This political newcomer, her name is Millet Kyrgios. She's 29. She took down a 15-term, that means 30 years, if my math is correct, Democratic.
You're pretty good on that.
Yeah, every now and then. Deanna DeGette.
To
And
get,
I know you served with her,
I
and
sure did.
my understanding is she was about as far left as you could be, but someone took her out because apparently she wasn't left enough.
She was. She was. She was as left as, like you said, as far left as you can get. And this new lady, um, she she's 29 years old. She was born in Ethiopia. She came over here as a immigrant and has done very well. Got educated at Notre Dame Law School. And it makes you wonder, if you go to a Catholic school like Notre Dame and you get educated, how can you come out with these liberal ideologies, especially when you come from Ethiopia to this country to benefit from that? There's so many of those people doing that. And then they want to attack this country and tell everybody how bad it is. It's just, um, my suggestion is get out of the country.
Yeah, well,
um,
and I didn't even remember that we did what I'm about to describe, but and this is not a knock on her or her parents. I don't know really anything about them other than what we're hearing now. But how they got here is apparently we had a wheel of like
yep,
a spinning wheel that
that's
basically
exactly
said
right.
to spin it because we need to have a diversity of people coming here, and whatever country comes up, we're going to take that person. And it happened to be Ethiopia, and that's how she got over here
It was a
with her
lottery
parents.
system.
I mean, it's just insane that you would do that as a country. It's just crazy. Don't even get me started on the birthright thing. We can talk about that another time. But, to literally spin a wheel and just pick somebody out of the blue. I
That's
mean, how
government
nuts
picking
is that?
winners and losers.
Are looters too?
Yeah, looters.
But this Caros lady, Ted, she has vowed to push Democrats as far left as possible. She's opposing Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries becoming Speaker. She was asked if she opposed him, and she said, well, she opposes anybody who takes PAC money. So that's basically everybody that's currently probably in Congress. So she said, I'm going to oppose them across the board. So I don't know who she would elect, but hopefully she won't get the chance. But what are your thoughts on that?
It's scary. I mean, she's 29 years old, came from Ethiopia, grew up in America, and has learned to hate it. And she's with the Democrat Socialist Communist Party. Educated at Washington College, University of Notre Dame, University of Colorado. That explains a lot right there. Um, and let me see. She supports Medicare for all. All right, Medicare for all. And I just have to remind everybody, we're at $39.7 trillion in debt. Do you think you can give Medicare for all? It's such a misnomer because people have health care in this country. Nobody's going to be denied at a hospital. You've got health clinics all over the country. And let's see what else you want. Abolishing ICE and federal rent control and a data center moratorium.
And keep in
Those
mind,
are.
Ted, I don't mean to interrupt, but keep in mind when you talk about Medicare for all, she
Mhm.
also said, as I said earlier, that every single illegal immigrant in America at this moment, which is between at least 10 to 20 million, should become citizens instantly. So she's talking about that too.
All right, so if you get Medicare for all, you give housing for all, you give food for all, government run supermarkets, free child care, who's gonna create an income, have a job to pay for any of this? These people are so whacked. Um, Go to Cuba. She needs to go to Cuba because I think they provide all that. I was watching a thing last night. The guy gets $5 a month working in a factory over there. $5 a month, and that's what they want to bring here. It just people need to wake up. All you young people out there watching, you need to get your friends involved, get them educated, because this is your future coming to you. People like this. Look around the world where these kind of ideologies or programs are in place. Look at the lifestyle in those countries. There is a reason people come to this country. These people are going to ruin that. They're going to
Well,
ruin
Ted,
your
there's
future.
there's one
They're
place
going
in
to steal your
America.
future, huh?
There's There's one place in America right now where I know you can get free food, free medical care, around the clock security. You don't have to work really at all anymore. You used to. All of that kind of stuff. I think they call it prison. And so their vision for America is to become one big prison, Hunger Games. You'll own nothing, but you'll be happy.
Yeah, or you can go to Los Angeles or San Francisco, and they'll give you free drugs, free outdoor sewers, just whatever you want. It's all free,
Yep.
baby.
But if you're wondering how far these communists, and that's what they are, will go, I'm going to play a video here in just a moment, but I need to set this up. This is a guy named Scott Wiener. He is a current state senator in California. He is running for Nancy Pelosi's seat in San Francisco for the House. He's been endorsed by her, so that he's got the rubber stamp of probably the most liberal Speaker of the House the country has ever known. All of that. He's not transgender, but he's an Alphabet City guy. He has pushed transgenderism. I mean, you couldn't be further to the left than this guy. And this video has got a lot of foul language that's bleeped out. But just this past week, he went to a transgender event to support them, and this is what he ran into.
I think your policy and your policy on the genocide in Gaza, and I think your policy on the genocide in Gaza is terrible. I think you don't belong. You do not belong here. You do not belong. Not anymore. You've been for trans people. You've been terrible. And you've been terrible. You've been terrible. You've been terrible on God. You do not belong here anymore, Scott, and it breaks my heart.
I will never understand why Democrats continue to choose to represent these people. They're just nuts. And if you want some proof other than the belligerent cursing, I'm just going to say this again because I say it every time and it just continues to happen. These are people at a San Francisco Pride event screaming at an alphabet identifying senator of theirs to do a better job of protecting the people in Gaza, where all of these alphabet people would have a very low life expectancy. And not to mention, he's a California state senator, so it's not like he can do a whole lot about foreign policy. None of it makes any sense. It's just annoying.
Think about that, Ted. This is a guy, I have to say it again, that is literally an Alphabet City guy who has been elected to office, who is endorsed by Pelosi, who is totally pro-transgender and everything else. And he gets shouted down, almost physically attacked by people over the whole Hamas Gaza issue because he happens to be Jewish himself. He's not been a big outspoken supporter of Israel and all of that. He's pro-Palestinian to a certain extent, but they just shouted him down. When this guy is not left enough, who is?
You know, when I watch that video, it's reminiscent of Antifa. That's the way they act. They're right there. They're yelling, screaming at you. So that's an Antifa organization. But to answer your question, how much further left can you go than what he is? It's communism, and it's to tear down this country, John, and to get rid of the United States of America. They want the divided states of America, and they want America to be gone so that they can rebuild it. And, you've got to look at who's behind that. Yeah, we know the Soros's money in there. Alex Soros, who's worse than his dad as far as pushing these kind of things. But you got China in there. You've got Iran. You got Russia. Anybody that hates this country, they're putting money in there. And there's people in this country doing the same thing. You know who else is behind them? Other politicians in Congress, like Ro Khanna. I served with Ro. He came in a couple years after me, and he's against the billionaires, but he is one of those. His family, he married into it. His wife is driving a $175,000 Range Rover, and they just sold their $3 million house in Washington to buy a $6 million house in Washington. And his kids are all in trust funds, and they own golf courses. But he's sitting there complaining about the wealthy people, and he's one of them. Just a hypocrite. And it's popular that he he's in this bandwagon of the liberal progressives, and he wants to run for president. So these are the people, and he's supporting these kind of people. So that's who's behind this on the political side. And Roe, he needs to get out of Congress. He really does. He doesn't belong in American Congress.
Absolutely. Well, we were talking about this Millette Curios, who is probably going to be the next congresswoman
She will be.
From Colorado. She was on this Hassan Piker show, who has become this big influencer who said that, 9/11 was justified and all of that kind of stuff. And this guy's becoming quite the influencer. I want to play a clip from that.
Influencer on the left.
On the left, no question about it. When she talks about the attack on Israel, I want you to look at this. This is Hassan Piker. This is who the Democratic Party is becoming right here. Check this out.
You graduated law school in 2022.
Yeah.
You started working at Sidley Austin and got fired a year later in 2023 for writing a letter, as we talked about, expressing solidarity with Palestine. You've mentioned that hundreds of other lawyers have reached out saying they wish they could speak up but couldn't risk losing their health insurance. Walk me through what exactly happened and how you believe your commitment to Medicare for All ties into your experience losing your career.
Yeah. I wrote the article because after October 7th, it felt like there were very different responses to what had happened. And, everybody remembers, right? Being on social media, seeing like some of the ways people were talking about Palestinians at the time. But I remember being on LinkedIn and like seeing other lawyers just like celebrating what they were seeing in Palestine, the leveling of Gaza and the, just complete destruction. And I was like, what is missing from this conversation where I could look at this as, an inevitable consequence of apartheid, of occupation, decades of occupation, and somebody else could look at what Israel's response was and say, no, that's what we need to do. They need to be leveled. This is too much of a unique evil. So I wrote that article trying to add in some of the context that I think was missing for some folks. And that didn't land very well with people. And after I was asked to take it down, I said no. And then it was about 24 hours after that I got fired. And hundreds of lawyers had messaged me and were like, I wish I could speak up, but I just found out I'm pregnant and I can't afford to not have my child care.
There she is, about to be a member of Congress, God help us, who says that the Hamas attack on Israel, forget how you feel about Israel. These people raped, murdered people, including Americans, literally snatched children from and made the children watch their parents be executed, put people in caves. We still have bodies over there they haven't recovered. I mean, as heinous as it could possibly be, and throw gay people off the roofs over there. And she says that it was an inevitable consequence. In other words, totally justified. This is, and I say this to Democrats, this is who you're electing to Congress, for God's sakes. I mean, what else can you say?
You can't do anything to go back and put blame other than on their parents, number one, the educational system, number two, and associating with people that are not being held accountable. I'm reading more about her. She's wanting to hire more immigration judges so we can get more immigrants in here. Minimum wage, living wage. She supports all these things. And of course, more taxes on the ultra wealthy and the wealthy. Who's going to define what wealthy is? Is it somebody making 100,000, somebody making 200,000? You want them to define who that is. These people's policies are anti-American. And again, I'm reaching out to the listeners, especially the young ones. This is not the future you want. Look around, look at Cuba, look at these other countries that are socialist, communists. They don't have near the lifestyle we have. We can fix our program, but it's going to be involving all of us getting engaged to prevent these kind of things from happening. Because once you go there, it's hard to back, and there will be a fight to do that. So the best thing is to prevent it, and let's fix the country and get it on the right track with an American agenda moving forward.
Absolutely. Well, you got the Democratic Socialists of America literally taking over the Democratic Party, and that's what's happening. It could stop potentially, but right now they seem to have momentum. And then, of course, now you got Tucker Carlson coming out, who is very popular, and with certain segments of the society. He's come out now and said he wants to build a third party to counter the Republicans and all of that. So you got all, and he basically, if you listen to him, he's saying the same things that the socialists are saying, that we got to get back to the fundamental, taking care of the working people and all of that kind of stuff. When there's no workers in the Socialist Party, they don't work. The people that none of them have jobs. Tucker Carlson has lived a cushy life himself. I mean, we got a lot of work to do here in this country, Ted.
It's interesting. I haven't delved into this Kiros lady that just won that election, into her background, how she got involved in this. But I'll bet you it went through the same process that Graham Plattner did, that AOC did, that all the new DSA candidates are. They go out and recruit these people. It's not people that have a burning desire to serve this country for the right reasons. They audition people, and like Graham Plattner, I think they went through over 1,000 people to find a useful idiot that they can train. And that's what they do with AOC. That's what they're doing with this lady. I can't say that with this lady because I don't know that. But when I read what she says, she supports raising the federal minimum wage from $15 to $22 an hour. We've seen what that does in these states that do that. Look at the fast food. Carol and I, we went to, one of the fast food ones. I won't name it, but just for the two of us to get, the burger and the fries and the drink, it's like 30 some, almost $40. And I thought this was one. Her foreign policy. Now, keep in mind, she's 29 years old, lawyer, but her foreign policy, a 10% reduction in Pentagon spending. How do you justify that? Where'd you come up with that? It makes it sound good. Oh, we're going after the American military. These people like her, they don't have a clue of what it takes to keep this country safe. And it's a very dangerous situation. So people, you need to wake up.
Well, Ted, I said a few minutes ago, the American people, we got a lot of work to do because you got all these different factions. And that's why we want to educate, motivate, and activate people. I don't care what your party is. We have got to get energized as an American people. If we don't, we're going to lose the whole kit and caboodle, and there won't be a tricentennial. Like I say, I won't be here to see it, but I want my grandkids to be here to see it. I want to play one more video before we close out the show. Wish everybody a 4th of July. This is CNN, their kind of guru analyzing, and it shows that the Democrats in this time when we should be celebrating the greatness of America, you don't have to agree with me all the time, but these numbers are frightening. We'll play it real quick and we'll come back and close the show out.
There is such a polarization, partisan split on this issue, the largest that I've ever seen. Just take a look at this. This is where it really gets interesting and I would dare say a little bit nutty. How proud to be an American? Among Republicans, 93% are extremely or very proud. Just a single one say they have little to no pride in being an American. But look over at the Democratic side. This is where we've seen this extremely or very number. It's been taking a tumble at 27%. Which is way different than the 93. You do the quick math with me here. What is that? That's a 66-point difference here in terms of extremely or very. But look at this. The little or no proud to be an American actually among Democrats is greater than the extremely or very proud number. So we are just living in such a different universe if you're a Republican versus a Democrat on the basic fundamental question of being proud to be an American.
So for Democrats, has it always been thus?
No, it hasn't. I mentioned this 36%, the little or no, actually outrunning the extremely or very. And I will note that this is the first time ever among Democrats in which this little or no actually eclipses the extremely or very. And look at this, back in 2001, look at this. The extremely or very, and this is pre-9/11, the extremely or very actually outran the little or no by 84 points.
Ted, if those numbers are accurate, it is frightening to think that many American people, forget Donald Trump, are not proud to be an American, period. It's just scary if those numbers are true, and I suspect they are.
I don't expect they listen to Lee Greenwood's song. It really is. I'm proud to be an American. It really is scary, and I think that's comes down, brings it down to a nutshell of where they stand on it. It's a hatred for this country, but yet that I think is also the cause that you're getting the politicians coming out like Tom Suozzi, who's kind of a moderate Democrat. Well, he's a moderate liberal progressive Democrat, saying that the Democrats' message is wrong. We've got to embrace America and let people know we love America. And AOC is coming out because they see these numbers, and that's what they're focusing on, is changing that message. So when they go into the midterms, they're going to pull some of the independents into their realm. And as far as Tucker Carlson, he's a guy that he loves to have the attention. He lost it on Fox News. He lost it on his podcast. He's been shunned, and so he's going to do whatever he can to stay relevant. And his message is wrong. It is just wrong. Yeah, the country's not right. We're kind of, the wheels are coming off the bus, but you don't throw it out, Tucker. You get involved to make it better, not to make it worse.
Absolutely. Well, happy 250, everybody. I hope you celebrate with your friends, family. Take a moment to think about what the day truly means. I'll leave you with this ditty and let you close out the show, Ted. I tell people, and only older people like us will understand it. He who goes forth on the 4th with a 5th may not go forth on the 5th. So be careful. Take us out, Ted.
That's a hard one to top. I'm just going to hold up the American Eagle here with the flag on it and tell you we appreciate it. Happy birthday, America. Enjoy your 4th. Use your fireworks to the extreme, but be careful. And don't forget to call Archer Automotive for all your transmission and automotive needs. Their phone number is 352-495-2485. They're in the beautiful town of Archer, and are open Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. And they are very strong patriots, and they will be celebrating 4th of July. Y'all take care. God bless.
Peace out, everybody.